Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Green Life Industry Australia Click and Collect webinar. My name's Peter Vaughan, and I'm the CEO of Green Life Industry Australia. And this Click and Collect webinar is part of a broader initiative between Green Life Industry Australia and the State Nursery and Garden Industry Associations, and working with the executives to keep plants moving this spring. There's 4 key activities that we've been focusing on to keep plants moving this spring. One has been communication, where we've continued with the message around the importance of green life from health and well-being, in particular in the areas where there's lockdown. Secondly, supplying details on the promotion and marketing activities with Plant Pals, Plant Life Balance, and Greener Spaces, Better Places. The third area has been the advocacy efforts of Green Life Industry Australia and the state NGIs, in particular those states that have been in lockdown, to ensure businesses can trade and operate. And part of the important aspect of that operation is having the ability to manage click and collect. So we're putting on this Click and Collect webinar today to get ideas and thoughts from a range of panelists who we've invited to join to provide their experiences, learnings, and other tips that they've picked up either before COVID hit, when COVID hit, and how they've modified their click and collect activities over the ensuing months as well. So on the panel today, we have David Howard from Bay Road Nursery, Joanne Harris from Guildford Town Garden Centre, James Romerin from Cedar Hill Corporate Group, and Mario Diaco and Daniel Vacchi from Diaco's Garden Nursery. Matt Carroll is the MC, so we have MC as the MC, and Sonia Gifford, GIA's Member Engagement and Partnership Manager, is also on, and Sonia will manage the chat as well as any of the activities from the webinar. So welcome, and over to you, Matt.
Great, thank you, Peter, for that, and thanks everyone for joining us. I can see quite a few coming in. Just before we do get underway, just explaining again that the chats for this particular webinar will be used as a way of asking any questions. So Sonia will be keeping an eye on that and flagging anything through. So we might throw to Sonia as we move around our panel. I'm just going to click through. So we do have an agenda. It's going to have a slight tweak to it, just in the lineup of some of our panelists through here today, and just a slightly delayed start. So we're actually going to be getting underway with Joanne from Guildford Town Garden Centre in WA, who I think is coming in loud and clear through there. So as we get Joanne set up on the system through there with her presentation, we'll get underway shortly. So, again, if anyone's got any of those questions, throw them up in the chat. We can come back to those and get underway and get each of those answered as we make our way through. So I can see Joanne getting sorted out through there, and I'll disappear into the background once she's ready to roll.
I can't see my my presentation.
It's like, oh, it's coming up for us. Do you want to just put down the bottom if you go into presentation mode? So just down near where the bottom right-hand corner, you might find that will then put it up into a more sort of looks like a presentation slide screen just below where your mouse is there.
Sorry, can't see it. I'm really sorry about this.
That's okay. What we can do is plan B. I can actually put the screen up here as well. So we'll just see if you can get that one working through there, because we can actually see it live on. Well, I believe everyone can see that on their screens currently.
All right. Do you want to put it up on mine and I'll work with you, and each slide I'll just ask you to change it.
Okay, we'll give that a whirl. So Sonia, if you can flick it across to me, I'll just get sorted here. So maybe perhaps whilst I get that lined up in the back end through there, Joanne, if you just want to give us a little bit of a chat about Guildford Town Garden Centre as just an intro to your business.
Sorry about my lack of IT skills here. I'm Joanne, and I've been running the Retail Garden Centre in Guildford for the last 30 years. For the last 15 years, we've had online presence and a web shop for the last 7 years. Mostly we set that up we specialise in trees. We have a large range of product, but we specialise in deciduous, ornamental and fruiting trees. So most of our website was geared towards the tree range that we carry, with an ordering system as well as gift lines and a spattering of other items. Online sales before COVID represented about 4% of the total of our sales. Now I need my slides.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I'm just flicking that across now. Let's see. Hopefully I can throw this live for you here.
Okay, there we go. So if we go down to, all right, so if we could go to the third slide, I'd appreciate it.
Third slide. There we go.
Thank you. Next one. All right, that's the retail shutdown. Thanks. So, no, sorry, the third slide. That's it. Thanks very much. All right, so we have a small space, and although Guildford Town, West Australia, was fortunate that we were seen as an essential service and we were allowed to remain open, and most garden centres did, for a number of reasons, we decided to shut our doors. One was we had 2 or 3 people that were either over 60 and also immune deficient, and we work out of 1,000 square metres. We pack a lot of stock into that 1,000 square metres, so our pathways are really small. So to be able to social distance easily without angst from the customers, it was very difficult. So after a week of trying to operate as normal, we decided to shut the doors. So which is what we went ahead and did. And we thought let's trust our website and see what we can, what ability we can get out of that. So we moved to click and collect, telephone sales and email sales. Next slide, please. So we decided there was a need for a lockdown strategy. So after a week of trading and working crazy hours like 5 till 12 at night, I sat down and did a strategy, and we decided we would extend the website. We'd look at social media and we would extend that also. So rather than doing posting, say 3 times a week on both Facebook and Instagram, we went to daily. Our e-news that was being sent out monthly then became a weekly process. And I felt that it was important to keep the staff in, let them know what was going on. And there was a certain amount of fear amongst them also. So we put out a staff newsletter that went out as we needed it. It sometimes went out daily to different staff members. We have 10 staff, by the way. At this point, we had 10 staff, not all working on the same day. So we were able to email them each day any information that was needed, whether it be about COVID or about the change of process. And we also looked at our on-site signage. We're on a very busy road, and so we upped our signage outside and so that the passing traffic could see what was happening. Next slide, please. So we scrambled. We got all the staff in. We shut down our showroom. Instead of having everything out on display, we shut it down. We put covers over it. We then set up 4 different computer hubs and social distanced, of course. And we set about with 4 different staff members scrambling to get much more onto our website. We started with just over 1,200 products on the website, and we now sit, as of yesterday, with 5,200. So we've done a fairly big, extensive push on the website. Then we went to extra delivery. So prior to COVID, we were delivering once a week, and then we decided we'd go Monday, Tuesday, Friday, but in fact we ended up doing 6 days a week. We recognised that the corridor from Fremantle down to Mandurah, which is a long way from us, it's a good 60 to 70 kilometre round trip, or more actually round trip. No one was really servicing that area, but we were getting a lot of phone calls and so forth in. So we decided we'd go on a Saturday and we would deliver down to there. Prior to COVID, we were delivering probably on an average of about 12 to 15 deliveries on a Friday, and we upped it, and because there was no traffic on the road, we were actually delivering around about 20 per day. Customer communication was certainly, we upped that. We had, originally we have a VoIP telephone system. I very quickly rang up Aussie Broadband and we went on to 2 lines, and we had 2 girls just answering the phones. It was constant the whole time. We used our own mobiles to phone out, because otherwise the phones were too clogged up and customers couldn't get in. There was an increased stress, as you probably all recognise, both with customers as well as with the staff. So there was a great need for patience and really looking after in a very different way what staff were used to as normal, and had to make a big change. Next slide, please. So our online, everything needed to change. And by the way, the graphics that you're seeing are ones that we used on our website, on Facebook, Instagram, e-news, anything that went out. And we also had some of them printed up really quickly, and we used these on our fence line also. But of course, everything changed. So we had a change in online ordering, new processing, everything. The front of the nursery, instead of having inspirational displays on it ready for the customers when they entered, we packed them all down, and we had web sales on one side, click and collect on another, deliveries at the front. It was completely different, and it was quite a weird sort of feeling, but it worked okay. It just meant that you had to really rely on staff being able to change very quickly their process. As I mentioned, we did extra deliveries, and we also, one of the things I found was that I needed to invest money. I was really afraid to invest that money, but we went out, and instead of having our van with this very nice little Guildford Town Garden Centre on the back of it and on each side, we had it wrapped. And our logo is purple, green and red, so we wrapped the whole van. We now drive around in this massive purple van. But it worked, because we had people calling us saying, I saw your van in our area, will you be delivering to us? So we were gaining new customers all the time through that. The e-news content changed also. We found that there was a lot of new customers, a lot of new gardeners. So instead of just promoting content, promoting plants, etc., we were also giving people ideas. We were teaching them how to garden, and we changed the content for that reason. Next one, please. So then we ended up opening again. It was way too soon. It just felt like we just got used to what we were doing, and we reopened. But of course, like everybody, we had minimal contact with people. We insisted on social distancing, which was still very hard. So we had to kind of change the nursery layout a little bit when we opened also. We still had a lot of car park deliveries where people would order, whether it be through the phone, the e-news, emails, web sales. We would then also have people drive into the car park, and we would take the deliveries out to the side of their car. We would leave, they would get in and take it. So we continued the process even when we were open. The extra staff, we went from 10 staff to 15 staff. That was the one thing I found we had to invest into, because the way we were operating, there was no way you could, take a customer to a plant that they wanted, chat with them, and then leave them to have a bit of a look and come back, and they would take their plant to the counter. It was running flat out the whole time. I remember falling into bed one night at about 12 o'clock, and I looked at my watch, at my Fitbit, and I'd actually done 36,000 steps. And I think all of us had done that too. We were running flat out. So that was why we really needed extra staff, and we needed staff that could just pick plants and could help with the processing. And of course, there was an increased demand. So although we opened again with 15 staff, we very quickly needed another 2 staff members. We now sit on 19. I've just employed another one yesterday, so it's 20, and we certainly need another staff. So we've more than doubled our staff since then. Could I have the next slide, please?
Yes, and just say 1 minute if I know we're towards the end too as well. So
these are just some of the graphics that we used, and we found that was really important to keep people inspired and keep things happening. You can go to the next slide if you like. So the results were new customers, lots of new customers from areas that had never been to us before because we went out so wide. Lots of new gardeners, which I see as new opportunities. We had new online sales, but we had repeat sales too. And we're continuing to get those repeat sales. And those people from the initial online sales were coming into us as well. Expanded our website. Like I said before, as of yesterday, there's just over 5,200 products and we're still moving. We've ended up with 2 girls. It represents 8.5 days a week that are just on web sales. We've got much more improved communication. Rather than going back to a monthly e-news, we now go out as a fortnightly e-news, and the numbers of that have doubled too. And of course, like most of us during that period, we had an increased revenue. So you could go to the next slide if you like. There's probably a lot more I could say, but within 10 minutes, it's quite hard to get it all and encompass the whole lot. We've had very small lockdowns since then, and we've operated slightly differently, but always going back to those same processes. If I'm to say one thing that I learnt well through that time was communication. It was so important to have good communication, whether that be to my staff, to the staff that I work with, or out to the customers. It was what really got us through and what I'm going to continue on with. I know we're having a Q&A at the end, but if anyone wanted to ring us at the end, there's our email. Get in touch with me and I'll give you a call, and I'm happy to have some time with you. Otherwise, thanks very much, and I hope you will trade safely and profitably. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much, Joanne, through for that. So I'll just clear that. And I believe we can now throw across to David Howard, who's going to take us through into our other experience from Bay Road Nursery in Victoria. And yeah, just with our slightly delayed start through there, we'll try and make sure that we can keep everyone to time. So I might also then put in just for our other presenter, I might introduce our wonderful, that could be our 1 minute marker towards the end there, just so that we can tick through and come back to any questions across the back. Very theatrical. So I'll pass over to you, David.
Thanks, Matt. Do you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yep, excellent. Sorry, I'm sort of running the audio off the phone. So hi everyone. Certainly welcome from the lockdown state. As Mario would testify, this is the lockdown capital of the world, and you know, I think we're the only state that garden sectors aren't considered essential. So every time there has been a lockdown, here we go again. And as most of you probably know, we're up to number 6 in Victoria. So we've got rioting on the streets, we've got earthquakes happening. It's pretty amazing. So this little journey started in March. Feels like about 10 years ago, but it's only 18 months ago in March 2020 when we were allowed to open. So the initial stages of the restrictions in Victoria effectively allowed us to operate. So for 6 months, well, from March till that fateful day in August, about the 5th of August, we experienced unprecedented demand and growth. You know, in 30 years, I've never seen anything like it. So we just set, you know, benchmark after benchmark, and it was, stock was running out. It was just extraordinary, and but we were open, so we were very, very lucky. Then we entered stage 4, I think it was called at that stage, where we were considered, as I said, the only state that, really went into where we became non-essential. So we pretty much started from scratch with an online shop, and we're very lucky to have a close relationship with Grow Networking. For those of you who aren't familiar with Grow Networking, Grow Networking is a business set up by Tracy and Hilton Blake, who run garden centres in Tasmania, Queensland, and I think Hilton ran Waldex in Perth for some time, Joanne, as you probably know. So they have been our saviours. They run pretty much all our web. They set up our website originally. They've set up. We've done a lot of video stuff with them. Which we've put on our website. They work on our sort of signage, our social media, and we'd always talked about an online shop. I'd always admired Mario's good work with their online shop, and so I think in 1 week, in early August last year, we set up an online shop. Fortunately, Tracy and Hilton had a couple of their clients. They've got about 30 odd clients that operate, that they work with on this level. A number of their, and they're Queensland based now, by the way, but they had a number of their clients running Shopify. So we effectively set up an online shop from our website on Shopify, and a couple of our young staff who are pretty tech savvy worked very, 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 very hard with dinosaurs like me to get this up and running. So we pretty quickly got a substantial shop up and running, and that really has been what we've relied on. We also kept the phones, and so people could ring up and place an order, and they could email and place an order. But as we progressed into, this particular lockdown went through till about the 26th of October last year, but we got completely overwhelmed with the phone. We had staff almost having nervous breakdowns. It was quite extraordinary, the stress and pressure on the staff, and customers were agitated as well. So we, about a month into that 3 months, we stopped the phones and made people either email or go onto the shop, and that really proved to be the only way we could operate. So then we finally opened up in October, and things went crazy again, through into about February this year, and since February, and I think again in May and perhaps June, we had 1 week lockdowns, or 1 week became 2 weeks. But those lockdowns really, we almost ceased trading because people just said, well, look, we won't bother with online, we'll wait. I guess in May and early July, it was essentially winter, so people were hibernating anyhow. But those periods we were very, very quiet. One other, and then of course, in about the 12th of about the 18th of July, we've entered a lockdown that we're still in. We're going to be in for the rest of our lives, I think, in Victoria. It's quite extraordinary what's gone on here. So what's happened is that our staff and our customers are really used to it. We've continued to upgrade the shop, with more products and better imagery, and I think the imagery is the key. It's interesting. The products we're selling are obviously the products that people know. The common, basic, potting mixes, lavenders, seedlings, herbs, veggies. It's very, and then the other products that are selling are products that have great images. So we've been very reliant on suppliers like PGA, Warner's, who have really good libraries of photos, and Grow Networking, our marketing consultants. They have a library of thousands of photos. So we've definitely found that the oddest things sell because they've got really good images. We've also, our location is such that we have a very strong presence to the street. So we've actually set up very strong visual displays when we're open on the street or inside our property in the car park. And so that's created and we have so many people out walking. That's all you can do in Victoria is take your dog for a walk. And so we've found that people walk past. We've had to be fairly careful because obviously, in Victoria, if people gather, there's neighbours dobbing in people. We live in a police state here, Mario, don't we? And so you have to be really careful about what you do on the street. And but that has, I guess, generated some soft selling with product display. We've got signs up out there saying, you can't, we can't sort of serve you. You have to ring and look, we've got a database of about probably 4,000, which Grow Networking manage. So as Joanne said, communication with your customer base is really important, really important. So it's been a hell of a journey. I mean, I guess, as an industry, we're exceptionally lucky. When we're open, we're booming. And it's been surprising, with the click and collect, our figures are much better than last year at the same time because we were in lockdown then. So I think we're about probably 20% up on the same time last year doing the same thing. So what that says is that people are used to it. But we can't wait to open. We've been told that we're opening in mid to late October. And I would expect, like last year, we will have extraordinary sales. So I guess we're pretty lucky, but our landscaping's been on and off because that sometimes it's considered construction. It's not. I think the message is we're all going to Western Australia. We're relocating to Western Australia, New South Wales, anywhere but Victoria. But it's been a hell of a journey. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a feel for life under lockdown in Victoria with click and collect.
Thank you very much, David. And a reminder to everyone too that we do have the chat sitting there. If you've got any questions, especially before you, perhaps they leave your mind throughout the course of the webinar, make sure you jot them in through there and we can return back, circle back to both Joanne and David and our future presenters, which we're going to actually move to Queensland now. So another state to be envious of in terms of some of freedoms through there. So we'll throw across to James from Cedar Hill Corporate Group. James, if you're coming in loud and strong.
Okay, like David, I'm on the phone, so I hope everyone can hear me. Yep. Okay, Cedar Hill Corporate Group. So we're based on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, the Freedom State. Sorry, fellow peoples. We've been operating since 1989. We are a group of horticultural-based companies. We have, I'll just run through the four main ones. Premium Greens is our flower and foliage, fresh cut flower and foliage export division. That's the oldest part of our company. Through that, we do domestic sales as well, direct to florists for fresh cut flowers and Australian native foliages. And we have a small division of that does click and collect locally in southeast Queensland. We then have our wholesale tube stock nursery, which is Australian Plant Specialists. We also have our own tissue culture lab, Vitraflora. And the company that I'm going to be speaking about today is our online tube stock sales, which is Australian Plants Online. I think a lot of gardeners out there know or have seen Australian Plants Online and they've been searching for plants around the country. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our process through COVID. We started that company in the downturn after GFC, when our wholesale tube stock nursery was struggling a little bit. We saw that we needed to diversify. So we started Australian Plants Online. We're in our 8th year now. So different to the Joanne and David, we were already in this space pre-COVID. And we were going along pretty good, growing 30% year on year, which is great for a startup. Anyone would accept those numbers, I would think. And then came along COVID, and I don't think anyone will forget it, April last year. We grew 220% in 7 days. So that was struggle street. In the same period, our export sales, of course, there was no flights. So our exports had died, but we were quick to engage and retrain those staff to come and help out in APO, Australian Plants Online. And I'll refer to it as APO because that's our acronym for it. So that was interesting times. We were doing the social distancing. We had to find space to comply, to be able to, process those orders. Our packing times have always been 3 to 5 days from receiving the order. At our worst point, we were 21 days behind in packing. So there was a lot of pressure at the time, and we learned a lot of lessons on the way through that, which I'll touch on in a minute. So number one, we had to get staff. We had to get staff trained quickly. And horticulturists, and I'm sure you will all agree with me out there, are not easy to come by these days. Plant people. So we had to get basically greenhorns and teach them about plants. So that was one of our processes, and that's one that we're going through now as well, and will continue into the future. So we identified very quickly that there was a need for us to simplify our process of how to get staff to be able to pack plants without being a horticulturalist. So we are at the moment in the process of implementing a traditional warehousing program, same program that you would find in a car parts shop or Harvey Norman warehouse or something like that. So plants have locations, plants have ID numbers, the pickers have scanners, and they just read an order off their scanner and go to that location. As long as they're in the right location, they will pick the right plant because the system won't let them do otherwise. So we're in the process of implementing that at the moment. Our managers are having lessons on how that's going to be rolled out. So that's one of the things for what we've learned and what we're going to do going forward. So 220% in the first wave, and then came along the New South Wales lockdown, what are we in, 5-6 weeks ago. We then went from 220% plus another 100% on top of that 5 weeks ago. So pre-COVID, we started with 8 staff. I'm now at 27 in the online division and another 10 in the wholesale section to try and keep up. Also with Australian Plants Online, it was brought about to sell more plants through our wholesale division, Australian Plant Specialists. But we very quickly recognised that we couldn't grow them all, and no nursery could grow 2,000 plus lines of plants. So now we have I think it's 12, we're up to 12 tube stock nurseries around the country, from Victoria to North Queensland, supplying us weekly. And we're shifting about 30,000 plants a week at the moment. Tubes, little tubes. So yeah, lots of people to pack those plants. So we've always had the website and always been web-based in that division. And my feeling is that we don't have a retail shop, we don't pay rent, we don't have leases, but doesn't stop us spending that sort of money on our website, because that is our shop front. And I think that's a good lesson for everyone to learn, that if you're going to invest wisely, and don't be scared of spending thousands on a website. The smicker your website looks, same as if you were operating out of, a big flash retail nursery. The look will attract people. So yeah, for those people that out there that are thinking about creating their own website, spend that extra little money to make it look pretty clean and pretty slick. So we invest a lot into our website. We have a developer on call 24/7. We have our in-house marketing and website design team, and they have been one lady in particular has been with us for 5 years, and it's basically her website, the look and the feel. And then, of course, we have our social media department, and Joanne was talking about a lot of the same stuff that we do. So we now outsource all our socials, so our Facebook, Instagram, through a marketing company, just because they are trained and do a professional job and know how to get the best out of your marketing budget for that area, which was something we learned early on too, because we tried to do it ourselves, and we're just posting on Facebook, But posting on Facebook and marketing on Facebook are two totally different things. So we learned. And like Joanne said, our EDMs, our email direct marketing, or a newsletter, we've always done once a week. We have played around with the idea of doing bi-week, twice a week, direct email marketing. But we feel as a company that we don't want to be too forward in pushing our product. Because every time someone orders with the way that we've got our set up, they automatically become a member, and they go into our membership group. So we leave it to the option for them to opt out. So that way we've built quite a big database. So we've currently got 90,000 members around Australia. And every morning at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, without fail, they'll get our email direct marketing. And that's not all about sales. It's a combination of information, growing tips, jobs to do in the garden, and then, of course, sales, because that's what we're there for. So we have a bit of a fan base, and they get a bit irate when they don't get their weekly newsletter to read with a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning. They start getting comments, well, where's the newsletter? So that's really good. And outside of the COVID lockdowns, when sales are going huge, we always see Saturday morning or Saturdays as our strongest sales day as a result of that EDM. And it's like Joanne said and David said, communication. You can't communicate enough with the customer, because they can't feel the product, they can't see the product. They're trusting the description that you're giving and the images, like David said, of what the product's going to be like. So more communication, the better, I feel.
a good point through. If we might have to come back through and perhaps if there's any other items in our Q&A time, just to make sure that we can wind up in time, if that's okay. But a good point in that communication side and keeping everyone up and running. So again, if anyone's got any questions, make sure you throw them through into the chat, and we can circle back to those just with an eye on time as we move across to one of our other lockdown member specialists, Mario Diaco. Down in Victoria from Diaco's Nursery. Hopefully, Mario, you can tune in okay through there.
I certainly can. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Mario Diaco. I'm from Diaco's Garden Nursery. We have got 5 retail garden centres that we work out across Victoria. And I'm also introduced my colleague, Daniel Vasic. So now, Daniel, is this correct? You've got a bit of a presentation you've put together since we've been on this chat. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I loved what Joanne had done, and I thought it'd be useful to have a bit of a guide for everyone. Now, I have to say, Joanne, yours looked beautiful. Mine won't, but I think it would just help everyone with showing what we'll be talking about today. Now, I've just been asked to provide my, it's asking me to quit and reopen very quickly. So do you mind if I quickly pop off the call? Mario will continue talking and my permissions will be reset so I can present.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So Daniel, if you've reset, I did that myself yesterday. So Mario, maybe just give us a bit of an overview how you've been handling things.
Yeah, no problems at all. Look, I think everyone in this panel, obviously I kind of feel everything that everyone is going through, the trends of, the craziness of it all, the amount of pressure on staffing, Melbourne being in lockdown, I think it's over 300 days now of it all. There's been so many different challenges. One thing that I feel that we're doing right this time around, being the second go at it, being the second year in a row now, and it's weird because I think we locked down last year, the start of August, and we seem to be coming out of lockdown, what they've kind of given this roadmap to us on the 26th of October. It kind of aligns in with last year's opening, which is quite unique. But obviously we've actually had added weeks of lockdown as well this year compared to last year. So yeah, look, I'll get Daniel probably to present what he needs to. And then probably one thing that I probably want to chat about as well, which we haven't really gone into, because look, I think everyone's kind of, with all the information that's been said already, I think it's covered a lot of stuff. But one thing I wouldn't mind covering is, the current, I guess, thing that's going around at the moment, and that is, staff members and about the jab, because I've had a number of my staff members kind of bring that up with me and, kind of ask me some questions and how I've had to kind of deal with those things. So to give you an idea, if I look at all of our 5 garden centres, we have over 85 staff across all those garden centres. So obviously, communicating to my managers and those managers, ensuring that they're communicating those right things to all the staff members is really, really important. And I think everyone would agree, and I agree for everyone, that communication in times like this is key with your employees, key with communicating with your customers is just so vital. But Daniel, you there, mate? You're able to do your stuff, mate?
I'm here, yes. All right, so I just need a bit of guidance to switch on my presenter mode. I'm not familiar with GoToMeeting. So Matt, how do I do that? Am I already enabled as a presenter?
It's a fun way, because you're in as another Mario now, so we might have to see which one we turn on and just see if it gives you which Mario did that go to.
Yes, perfect. Okay, show my screen, show my main screen. Everyone sees that?
Yes.
Yep.
Nice. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll across to the left and we'll get started. All right, and let me hit presenter mode. All right, amazing. Okay, excellent. So thank you for joining. I've had the pleasure of working with Mario and the family since 2013. Fortunately, I don't have any grey hairs because of it. Even though it's been an incredibly challenging time in the last 2 years, I think we've all done well to work as a team to kind of deal with all the pressures. So when COVID hit back in March, our take on the whole situation was we needed to act pretty quickly. We had an online store for some time. I think at that particular point it was around 2 years. But what had happened was we had a bunch of problems that we wanted to solve, and each of them really spoke about some critical customer experience challenges that we're facing. So, you know, how easy was it to search and filter our site? How easy was it for customers to flow through the checkout and cart process? What happens after purchasing? Can customers actually get the product that they have online, and is it the correct price? One of the major challenges is try to keep all the data you have online the same as you have in store, and basically with an extraordinary amount of volume, it became difficult. You know, that the stories of the phone running hot, you know, Dave and Joanne both shared those stories. It was a very similar situation with us. We too upgraded our phone systems in 2 locations to a VoIP-based system, and we're trying to identify how do we solve this. And you know, staffing was one thing, getting the right team members in, but also technology and what we ended up doing online. So also one of the other questions was, did they receive all their order, right? And what were the challenges around that? So what we decided to focus on, we engaged with a company, and basically we have a team of 12 working, approximately 8 to 9 developers. It's changing right now. We're shifting around the team a bit. We've got a full-time UX designer, a quality assurance manager, and a product owner. And so we set about rebuilding parts of our website and focusing on customer experience, the synchronization of products, enabling different delivery zones. One of our challenges was because we have our four locations operating under the Diaco's Garden Nursery brand, was how we allocate orders. We had an old way of doing it via emails. Every time we had an order come in, we had to quickly shoot it out as an email, and suddenly that was not really possible to manage. And then this idea of customers are expecting the same kind of experience where they come into our store, or whether they buy online, they want to see the same type of things and have the same type of service. And finally, that, you know, multi-location thing. So what we decided to do was take a bit of an active look at this. So what we'll do is we'll go through a demo version of the Diaco site. We have a live version of it, basically a copy, but it's where we work out all our bugs and issues. And what I'll do is I'll show you what it looks like at the back end, and how it's helped us. So this first issue around filtering and sales, filtering and search, one of the major handicaps that we had on our site was the ability to quickly find a plant. So we implemented a new search navigation element. So here you can quickly see that you get live view of products, and it tells you about the different types of articles or the products that we have. If you were to do something like plants, you'd see categories, products, and articles. So we wanted to really expand that. The other things that we did as well was be able to manage different inventory levels at different locations. and allow customers to quickly add to cart and move forward to checkout. And then at checkout, they would be able to, if they had signed in, they would be able to make an order, and their order would be automatically allocated to a store. Now, I heard the 1 minute buzzer, so I'll quickly go into what we ended up doing. So if it was a pickup, we enabled the ability to automatically notify a customer that their product is being processed. It's ready. We also sent out an additional SMS notification that their order was ready for pickup. This simple thing helped us address the problem around immediate communication around orders, because as David pointed out, people would get very irate about, where's my order? Why is it taking so long? We did a similar process for deliveries. So here we have got an order accept, and we can actually schedule the order for some time in the future. So we can let people know that we're going to be delivering it on this time, and we can even allocate a driver and then notify people. So simple process of improving our website flow, allowing our staff to notify customers very quickly, led to improvements across the board. We had, I'll just switch that off right now. We had a conversion rate that would kind of stop at around 2%. We hit a 4.3% conversion rate online. Our traffic online grew to around 1 million visitors, page views a year. With concern to the order volume, our maximum order volume grew to around 200 orders a day. And last year, we had a situation where we had to actually turn off our online store because we couldn't handle everything. And this year, because of those SMSs and improvements, we didn't have to turn off our store. So hard work, condensed it really quickly. And Matt, I'm going to let you go forward. Thank you for giving me the extra minute.
All good. Thanks, Daniel. And good to have a look at some of the technology, because that's one of the things that's come up across each of our panelists. And I guess, you know, making sure that you can scale up to the to the needs of your customers and the communication and that side of things as well. So it's been interesting seeing some of the you know, commonalities between all the various states and territories as well, going through with you know, seeing perhaps a little less patience from what are normally a very patient type of customer, our retail garden centre customers. It's interesting to see, popped up a couple of times that people were getting a little less patient in the back end, and as I guess we work through some of the other issues in supplying their needs. So again, if anyone's got any questions, pop them across into the into the channel, into the chat through there. But across with the, you know, the van wrap and that type of thing, Joanne and James, I'm sorry, I know we sort of cut through across from there. Was there anything, and I know Mario wanted to discuss the jab side as well, which we'll try and circle back to, but just in mind of getting all done in the time frame, we can run it over if needed. Yeah, was there anything else that you thought you wanted to slot in through there? I know, James, you're talking about that communication and sending them out.
Yeah, I only have one other thing that I feel is a must if you're going to go into the web, you know, the e-commerce space. SEOs. You've got to have good SEOs. Google AdWords. Yeah. Got to be on the first page. So spend the money, invest in your SEO content, and get someone good to do it for you if you can't do it for yourself. That'd be probably one of my biggest tips. Yeah.
And with all these investments and all the various things, because I mean, there's been some great sales in Green Life across the place, so it's probably quite handy having a, you know, bit of extra money rolling through the doors, and then at the time where you're going to be having to invest through that way as well. So I've just got something popping up on my screen. So what I'll do is I'm just going to throw any other questions or anything else from our presenters there. Murray, you're talking about communication also with, you know, running our businesses as well, and you know, the minefield that is going through and with the vaccination side of things. So were you wanting to tell us how you've been handling it, or put it to, you know, some of the other?
yeah, I guess, and I've heard it off multiple staff now. Just where do you guys kind of sit with the jab? Because obviously there's. Oh, do you want to be quite frank about it, or do you want me to tone it down a bit? Obviously, the good old state government, and the media around in Melbourne is, I think, a whole Australia. There's a bit of fear mongering going on about, if you don't get the jab, you're not going to have a job and all this type of stuff. So, I've had the last week in particular, a lot of our staff members giving me a call, letting me know, where does the ARCOs kind of sit with all this, and so yeah, again, obviously all I've been doing is kind of explain, look, we're only really guided by what the state government kind of tells us to do, like we have been, hence why we're doing this click and collect and everything that we've had to do in this time. And obviously what we've been saying is, look, the best person to kind of speak to is, your health specialist, so your local GP, or if you know people in that type of sector, to get the right advice in regards to promoting the jab. I know I sent out a message out to all the team members, because we use an app called Deputy, which kind of runs as a bit of a rostering system, and obviously you can communicate to all your staff members through it as well. Just going about, we encourage people to get the jab, but still, go see your doctor or your health specialist in regards to it, because there's multiple different jabs you can go for, and whether they are suited to you or not, best to see someone like that. But in regards to mandating or telling people to get it, I think personally and as a family, I stand here and say, look, the ARCOs won't be going down that I guess avenue unless it is mandated from the state. So yeah, that's how we've been kind of managing this whole sector about the jab and stuff like that. So yeah.
I know with testing for various areas as well, and businesses locally here in New South Wales, they've been working on the testing sides and their testing cycles and things like that as well, in an effort to sort of stay open and tick off all the regulatory needs. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Did anyone have any other thoughts on that from the panel, or different?
Well, we're in a bit of a different situation. We've not been in lockdown for 200 days, and we've had it really lucky, a bit like Queensland. And we have been thinking about it, and I've got a couple of staff that don't want to have the jab, and I'm not prepared to have a discussion with them. It's up to them. But what we've done is we've put in place a policy where those people, if we ended up with something happening here like you are in Melbourne and New South Wales, those two people would then be working remotely. We would ask them to work remotely out of the garden centre, and we're just going to set it up so that they can do that.
That's good, with a bit of forewarning and a bit of a buffer on the other states. As you know, you're in quite a good position, you and James, through there for working on seeing what works with the rest through there. So I'll just check. Sonia, anything through on the chat side? A reminder, if anyone does want to put a chat, we'll run a little bit over just in case anyone had anything pressing, but understanding that if any of our panelists have to jump off due to time constraints, because we're running a little bit over. Yeah, if you've got any questions, pop them up in through there. And
we'd be able to share COVID with you, Joe. We're very caring, sharing in Victoria.
That's okay, David. We understand how you are.
Don't worry, David. New South Wales trying hard to share it with us.
It's all been very good. I think I'll just check in the chat side just to see that nothing's popped up in there myself, or if Sonia's there. But yeah, it's definitely a good sign anyway, in terms of looking at teching up all the various businesses across the country, even whether you're in been locked down for 300+ days, or if you're currently on the lucky side of the lucky side of the country in terms of not having to deal with it quite as abruptly and to quite the same extent. But from it. Definitely looking at some of those digital resources being the best way of managing it. In terms of the click and collect, the physicalities of that, I actually put something up the other week just on a chat thread just to see if anyone had any ideas, and the management of car parks and things like that for the actual facilitation of the click and collect. The person, I forget who it was, but mentioned, trying to get times from various customers to come and actually collect their parcels. Has that been an issue, or has it been, pretty, do you get rushes in your car parks, especially where you're not meant to be, having gatherings?
Busy in the mornings, we find, just people, if you give them a window to pick up, invariably you get a rush, morning, we're sort of giving people a window of 2, and we are open a bit either side of that if people, but yeah, it just gets a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
You've got to be
managing through that side. Any other thoughts from anyone else on the panel, or any questions? I don't think there's anything that's popped up on the side, which is a good sign perhaps that we've covered off quite a few areas through there. So from the technology, the communications, and that specialist targeting through those, be it online channels and Google AdWords and SEO and that side of things, as well as social media and using it in the right way and posting with purpose. Yeah, some good items coming out through that. So thank you to all of you for coming across as our panelists and giving up your timing and sharing your knowledge with everyone. And thank also to everyone else that's joined us on the webcast through here. Peter Vaughan had to head off to another meeting, so he asked me to pass on his thanks to everyone in attendance, and especially to our panel members here today for what's been very informative. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I should have had an outro jingle or something here queued up, but anyway, we'll leave it at that. And thank you also for those of you offered, if people did want to have some more communication or perhaps ask some of those questions, to get in contact. So anything across from you, Sonia? All good to on from Green Life Industry?
All good from Green Life Industry. For attending, and this meeting will be on our GAA YouTube channel, which I'm also going to be promoting in this afternoon's e-news that will go out. So there'll be a web link to rewatch this webinar.
Very good. You can enjoy it all over again over the weekend. I know you'll be all too busy packing and shipping stuff around. So enjoy. And, thanks for coming across and joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
All the best.
Oh.